Hello and welcome to Fathom Live. It's the fastest growing Fathom Live show in the nation. That's because it's the only Fathom Live show in the nation as far as I know. But I'm your host, Geoff Sterner. We have a great show lined up for you today. And we also have a contest that we run every week. If you're a regular viewer, you know this. That is, if you share the show, if you comment in the comment section on either Facebook or YouTube, giving us a shout out saying, hey, I'm in, wherever, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, Seattle, Washington, whatever, let us know that you're there. We automatically add you to a weekly drawing for one of 4 prizes. You can win a listing photo package. You can win a leads ad package. You can win a yard sign package up to $200. All of those are up to $200, as well as a free OnTarget transaction through OnTarget transactions if they're in your state. So you get to choose one of those 4 prizes. And we did have quite a few shares and comments last week on Alexis Clare's show. And by the way, if you haven't watched that show, I highly recommend it. It's actually gotten quite a few views, and she just lays out all kinds of pieces of helpful information about short sales and foreclosures. So make sure you go back and watch that if you haven't. So here's our handy little spinning tool to see who won last week's show. And I neglected the sound here, but you can see it. Here it comes. It is. There it is. It's Helen Holloway. Helen Holloway, you win one of those 4 prizes. So we'll be in contact with you about that prize. So congratulations. So if you aren't already commenting, sharing, make sure that you do that, and we'll make sure to enter you into next week's contest. We have Geoff Sterner on the show with us today, but before we get to Geoff, and by the way, Geoff is from Goosehead Insurance, and that's the kind of topic we're going to be talking about today. Before that, though, I want to thank GoSocial Agent for being our sponsor today on the show. They do all sorts of things to help you grow your social media presence. So, you've got enough to do as a real estate agent. You wear a lot of different hats, and this is one of those hats that you can just sort of let somebody else take care of. They set up your account to look professional and to be the most optimized for a business account, a business page on social media, on your different social media accounts, as well as they'll do automated postings, agent-branded articles, buyer and seller handbooks that you can provide to your clients, Facebook ad campaigns, and more. They help you grow your online community. And if you happen to be a Fathom agent, thanks for watching, by the way, but you get some of this stuff for free. In fact, I think you get a year of posting for free for you. So check them out at GoSocialAgent.com. Also, if you're on YouTube and you haven't hit that little subscribe bell, that will allow a notification to pop up on your phone or whatever you're on to let you know, hey, we're going live. That way you don't have to remember it. So that's one way to help you there. Also, I'm going to throw out a couple of different things. If you know somebody that you think, hey, they would make a great show guest, or I would make a great show guest, if that's you, shoot us an email at marketing@fathomrealty.com. We're always in search of show guests that will provide really good content for you. So let us know if you do find somebody there, or if you are that person. And then also, we want to add a couple of segments. One's kind of fun. The other one is just, I think, a great thing to do. If you know of an agent that is doing something very significant in their community, that's just a good act of service for their community, or doing something special, let us know. We'd love to give them a shout out and just promote that kind of success in this industry. So again, marketing@fathomrealty.com. That'll come to our team that runs the live show, and we'll be able to recognize that person on the show. Also, from time to time, we see absolutely crazy things happen in the real estate world, whether it's just a bizarre listing or whether just a funny story, and we want to be able to share those. So if you think, man, this one is too good to keep, send it to us as well, marketing@fathomrealty.com, and we will share that story, or we may share that story depending on what it is on the show. There's the address. There it is. So it's floating down. See if you can follow my hand. Can it go up like this? There we go. I can just control it. I'm kidding. All right, we'll stop that so people can actually get it. Okay, so that's enough of all the blah 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 stuff. We're so glad to have Geoff Sterner. And by the way, Geoff spells his name right here, and it's scary close to my name. GeoffReyster. His is NER, mine is TZ. So separated at birth.
Perhaps.
That wouldn't even make sense, really, but perhaps. Geoff is the started the agency there where he leads that agency at Goosehead Insurance, and we're glad to have you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here. And, before we jump into anything beyond the thanks to you guys, I just want to give Fathom Real Estate a plug. You guys are the people to strive to want to work with. And if there's realtors out there that are on the fence or maybe looking for a change or a move, with your virtual office platform and your aggressive compensation plans and some phenomenal leadership, I think it's a pretty easy choice if people are looking. So thank you guys for allowing us to partner with you, and we're excited to just grow bigger and better as a pair here in the future. So absolutely.
Well, thank you for that encouragement, and I did not pay Geoff to say that.
Yeah.
So yeah, right, yeah. Before we jump into things though with the questions here, I understand that you are a big hunter, that you really enjoy hunting, and that you recently came back from a trip. So what kind of hunting do you do?
Oh, Lordy. We do it all. My passion is the bird dogs. I don't know if you can see in the background, but I have an oil painting of arguably the best bird hunting dog I'll ever have. But yeah, the outdoors in general is just a real passion for myself and my family. And we also use that and intertwine it with our business relationships. That's kind of the direction we've gone as a whole, and a value to you realtors out there that you can utilize as our partners. Some guys take and go do the big bar tab. We're really not about that. What we're about is get a couple of people, maybe you're trying to earn their business. Let's have you out to one of our big ranches and we'll take you on a quail hunt, or put you up in a blind and go hog hunting. Those are the vehicles we like to use to entertain our clients and show thanks to our referral partners out there that are sending the business our way.
Very good. Do you have any trophy? I mean, like, those the game that you've gotten that you would say, man, this was the one right there.
I don't have anything that's going to be per se in the record books. Now, off screen right here, I have a trophy wall of just dozens and dozens of plaques and belt buckles and all these different things I've won in the field trial circuit. Those things have been something that I cherish, the accomplishments we've done there. But anything outdoors, it doesn't matter really how big it is. It's just being out there. It's having that experience in God's great creation. I mean, that's what it's all about. So,
very good. And I would agree. Let's talk about the Goosehead for just a second. Goosehead Insurance. I want you to have the opportunity to tell about the product that you offer and the kind of service you offer, and then we'll get into these questions. And by the way, if you're watching right now, please, as always, feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'm monitoring them right now. I know Geoff is very happy to field those questions, and we'll answer them as best as he can on the show here. So feel free, if you got a question about homeowners insurance, I'm sure we'd love to have it here on the show. So tell us about Goosehead.
Yeah, absolutely. Goosehead Insurance actually was founded right here in the great state of Texas, which I love. Currently, we're the fastest growing private brokerage in the United States. If we continue on to our projected growth patterns, we will overtake State Farm as the largest market share in North America sometime here in the 2020s to 2035. I don't know the exact year on that, but our growth pattern is just phenomenal. And the reason for that is we simply execute a little bit better than about anybody else out there. We are a what's called a property and casualty insurance specialist. So we're going to write your home, your auto, your motorcycle, your boats, your ATVs. We're going to execute life insurance. We also do commercial insurance. But what really sets us apart is, a plethora of carriers. We have essentially every good quality carrier in the state of Texas that is available in a brokerage model. And then our customer service is on an algorithm of a rank above some of the absolute top tier captive companies in the United States, such as USAA, Germania, some companies like that. We actually rank higher in the same customer service surveys than they do. So it's really hard for us not to earn business, and it's really hard for us not to keep it. If somebody calls us, we normally are going to be able to execute a really good quality product for that client and also at an excellent price.
Very good. Now, how did you get into the insurance business, just real quick?
Sure. Yeah, so kind of a wild deal. My father was a national accounts manager for Moen Faucets, which Fortune Brands 500 company, or Fortune 500 company. Fortune Brands is their name. I was preened to be a home builder my entire life. I started out at 13 as a block mason, worked as an apprentice for a trim carpenter, worked as a framer, everything you can think of. And when I got out of school, I went right into the home building industry, as my brother did, as superintendents and then project managers for two of the top 100 home builders in the United States. And it was a phenomenal ride. But as we all know, in 2004, we felt a heavy recession, and we were in the state of Florida at that time. And, my brother and I looked at one another and we said, what in the world can we do that we can still have the same satisfaction at the end of the day of what we've done and what we've accomplished for our client, but is a little more recession proof, where we're not at the mercy of the roller coaster.
Right.
And for us, it was property and casualty insurance. And we were directed in that direction by our stepfather, Tony Barletta. He, at that time, owned three of the largest state book of businesses in the state of Florida. And he approached us and he said, boys, I think you'd be really good at this, but whatever you do, if you do it, make sure you do a brokerage and not a captive agency. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why that is here later in the interview. But, we started from scratch. I mean, my brother and I were blue collar, hard labor guys, our whole lives. And, we didn't really have a lot to start. And it was basically him and I sitting down and saying, okay, we have to sell this many policies this month for us to make our truck payments, eat, keep our power on, all those simple things. And I'm so glad it started that way, because if it didn't, then we would never know the value of a dollar. We would never appreciate the success that comes from hard work like we do now, So.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
So this kind of relates to stuff that we've talked about here on the show before, but maybe you can speak to this. Why is it important to have an insurance company or a representative that you can recommend to your clients as a real estate agent?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. If a client comes to you as a realtor, they're coming to you with arguably what will be the largest investment they're going to make of their life. And they've looked at you and they've entrusted you to be that representation. When you are at the helm and at the reins of such a large investment, they lean on you for everything. So anybody that you refer out, anybody that you're partnered with, that's a direct reflection of you and how you do your business, just like we do ours. So,
right.
If you're not recommending an insurance agent, period, well, then you're taking that client that's entrusted you with this big investment and you're leaving it to chance. And
right.
you're not going to be guaranteed that good quality control of product is going to be put into play. So a realtor, in my opinion, number one, having a quality control set. If that client comes to us, we are going to give them the absolute best quality product with every major endorsement that a client needs in the state of Texas to be covered no matter what sort of loss it is. That's when you recommend to an insurance agent that writes that type of product, you're guaranteed that's the product they're going to get.
Right.
The other aspect of that is, when you recommend to somebody that you trust, that they're going to get the same exact response, that same exact service that you've replicated to that client through this purchase process. again, if you go and let them allow them to go make that choice themselves, who knows what type of feedback and
Right.
what type of back and forth that agent's going to provide for that client. So it's so important because it's a reflection of you, and it makes you look that much better when we knock it out of the park, just like you did in the process of purchasing a home.
And that goes back to, I mean, what we've heard a couple different times on the show is that you want to have predictable results with as much as possible. I mean, there's always curveballs thrown in real estate, but to
Right.
be able to know this is the experience that clients are going to have each time, and then of course always if there's an issue with an insurance company that they have, or especially if it's one that you recommended that you didn't really vet real well, that's a
Right.
reflection on you, and they're going to be ticked off at you as well as the insurance company. Uh,
Yeah.
so now, in some ways, there's a lot of boxes to check when it comes to getting a
Yeah.
transaction complete, and insurance may be thought of as one of those boxes to check. But really, how can a good insurance company assist an agent and assist a client in getting your clients in the right home in the right way?
Yeah. So if you have an agent that's really ready to work for you, an insurance agent, you know, what they're going to do is they're going to take additional steps to make sure that your client goes in with the absolute best knowledge of that home before they actually submit an offer. So a really good agent that you're going to be partnered with before your client submits an offer, if you're calling us, first thing we're going to do is we're going to run the flood zone determination on that home. Let's make sure that that house doesn't sneak up on us and all of a sudden it's in a non-preferred flood zone, and now your mortgage payment is going to be way misconstrued because you have a $3,000 flood policy that your mortgage is going to require. So if you allow us to be that conduit, allow us to be proactive and shop and make sure that that's not in a flood zone, that's a major positive right there. Another big aspect that we can do is we can run what's called a clue report on the house, which is basically the claims history on the home. If this home has had two different owners, the seller's disclosure only goes to the one homeowner that's selling it. So if there was a big slab settlement claim that happened two owners ago, that client will never know about it unless we run a clue report for that client. We can say, hey, we may want to take a harder look at this. There's a $40,000 slab claim on this house.
Right.
It's all about providing as much information up front to help that client make a good quality educated purchase.
Do you do that on
And
every
then
piece of property? I mean, do you run a clue report, or you recommend that on every piece of property?
absolutely. So anytime that we execute a policy, before it's executed, the clue report is ran. So it will happen. But what we don't want to have happen is that client calls us, they're within 30 days of their closing. We run that clue report and then we call them up. Maybe they're getting close to being out of their option period or they are out of it, and we tell them what we found, then, oh my goodness, what am I about to buy?
Right.
So if we're proactive about it, it's way better. But yes, we will run that clue regardless.
What about stuff like proximity to a fire station? I mean, does that ever become an issue with selling a house?
Yeah, it sure does. It's more so in rural situations. It's what's called protection classes. Uh, Protection classes go from 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. The rule of thumb is if you have a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of your home and you have a fire station within 5 miles of your house, you are a protection class 1 through 8. Most of the time, it's going to be a 2. That's your good quality premium rates. If that fire hydrant's beyond 1,000 feet, but you still have a fire station within 5 miles, now you're a protection class 9. And if you have a fire station that's beyond 5 miles, you're in the protection class 10. And those are huge rating factors as far as price points and premium.
Gotcha. Which may, and we're going to look at this in a little bit, but might change the ability to actually finance the house. I mean, for you to be able to make that payment. What
Absolutely.
about issues with like pests and mice and termites, is that typically, I mean, that's something that we do deal with here in Texas. And by the way, I mean, just, and I know you know this, but for our viewers, this is nationwide here. Fathom's
Yeah.
in 20 states you know, and our company's growing. So,
Yeah.
but typically with insurance, is that kind of stuff covered, or is that stuff that ends up surprising people?
Yeah, so you got to think of insurance as insurance covers the home and not the ground it sits on. Except for liability aspects, of course. But
Right.
what I'm getting at is the structure is what insurance covers. So I'll give you two scenarios. If you have a termite infestation, that termite infestation would not fall under a homeowner's policy. Um, Hopefully you're getting a good termite inspection ahead of time, but
Right.
the pests themselves would not be under there. But let's say a mouse goes into your house, chews through a wire, it shorts out, it causes a fire, and the house burns down. Now insurance is going to kick in and cover the home because of what the mouse has caused, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
But pests, things like that, those are going to be excluded from your normal insurance policies.
Right. So as I'm making recommendations to my clients, I'm going to say, hey, get a termite inspection here, because this is not an insurance thing. This is something that it's more of a home maintenance thing that
Correct.
you need to take care of.
Yes.
Keith Campbell, who actually had on the show a few weeks ago, dealing with inspections, he said, I always encourage my clients to buy replacement cost fire and casualty policy instead of a depreciation policy when purchasing a home. Is this a good recommendation? What are your thoughts?
In my opinion, it's the only recommendation. And to tell you how serious we are about that, we will not execute a policy that has anything actual cash value on it. And what that is replacement cost. Let's use a big screen TV because Lord knows they've come a long way in the last 10 years. So, let's say you had the 10-year-old big screen that rolled around on the wheels. It's a 50-inch screen TV, and we lost that in a fire tomorrow. If you have actual cash value, they are going to pay you the depreciated value of what that TV is worth. So maybe $50.
Right.
In a replacement cost policy, they're going to be obligated to go out and buy you a brand new 2020 50-inch screen TV that's comparable maybe in make. As far as if it's a Zenith, they'll go with the Zenith, but everything has to be replaced brand new. And that's so big. There's carriers out there today. I'll use Allstate as an example. Allstate now, they offer their homeowner policy replacement cost value except for their roof, unless it's endorsed. So what that means is if Mr. Smith has a roof claim and they didn't endorse replacement cost value on their roof, they're only getting the depreciated value. Let's say that roof is 14 years old and they're going to have to come out of pocket big time. So replacement cost is so valuable, and that's what we do here. There's just lines that we draw in the sand, and we're just not going to execute certain policies if they don't have certain aspects, and that's one of them.
Well, we still haven't come up, by the way, our viewers, with a Segway award, but this one gets another Segway award here because Emma asked, she said, great info. And by the way, thanks for the question, Keith. She said, great info. Are log homes expensive and difficult to insure? Typically, they are in rural areas. And my next question was, do you ever have pieces of property, and related to what you just said, that are uninsurable?
Sure.
So
Sure.
maybe start, I guess, with the log home question, if you know that off the top of your head.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Log homes, let's say a log home is right in the middle of the city. Your protection class is great. Nothing is rural about it. They're still difficult to insure. Just not all carriers have an appetite for a log home. So what it does is it shrinks your availability essentially throughout the marketplace. Now, there are really good quality carriers that have an appetite for log homes and they don't ding them too bad. But if you don't have a broker that has all of these products, you're never going to know that. That's what's so important about utilizing a broker instead of a captive agent. A broker has 40 different companies and they're going to have one that fits that bill. So to answer your question, yes, log homes are insurable. There are some competitive rates out there, but you are going to shrink your options. And then if you get rural, it's just going to get even smaller. So a way tougher market than your normal standard stick frame home or your masonry built home.
Now you may have already mentioned this, and I'm having memory issues on this because I know we talked previously about this on before the show, but you have mentioned what a brokerage model looks like compared to your traditional insurance company, right? Or if you haven't, maybe just speak to that.
I haven't. And so a captive agent, okay, is like what my stepfather was with Allstate. Your captive agents out there, your Allstates, your State Farms, your Farmers, your Germania, these guys put a ton of money into their marketing and branding. Everybody knows them by name, but they only have the one product to sell. So if 10 clients walk into that door, they're maybe going to be able to give a good quality product at an affordable price to maybe 20%, maybe two of those people. A broker goes out and gets appointments from all of these other different carriers, and brokers can have a portfolio that's sometimes robust as 120 carriers, but that is so important. Going with a broker, have all those different options, and then asking that broker, just how many options do you have? And it's not just a numbers game, it's the quality of the numbers. You know, you want to make sure they have AM Best or Demotech rating A+ for their financial stability. You want to make sure these guys are home run hitters in their claims ratio. But you know, brokers, we're really blessed to be ahead of the game because we have this plethora of products. There's nobody that comes to us that some carrier doesn't want. And that kind of segues into your is anybody uninsurable. And I'll allow, do you have a follow-up question or do you want me to jump into that?
Actually, well, with that, well, this is kind of related, I guess. Have you ever seen a situation where maybe a home in the state that it is uninsurable, or somebody discovers it's insurable? And this, I don't know if this is a you question or this would be more of a title company question or a real estate attorney, but have you ever at least seen a situation where the buyer makes it a requirement, maybe in an addendum or part of the contract, that this home will be insurable before it closes, otherwise we're out and we have maybe a certain time period. You know, say,
Sure.
you know, I know you used to do stuff in Florida, you know, and there's a lot of, there's sinkholes and there's, you know, situations where it's like this needs to be shored up before it can even really be passed over to somebody else and insured.
Right, right. Yeah, so to begin with, the question is there something that's just uninsurable? The loose answer is no. Everything can be insured, but the quality of coverage that it's insured with, and we'll go back to that actual cash value versus replacement cost. There's a carrier out there that'll do it actual cash value. There's always some sort of insurance out there, but my goodness, I mean, as far as getting your investment back, that sometimes can be a little tough. So yes, they can be insured, but not all the time with the good quality products that are available. And your second part of that question, refresh me on that real quick.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, can you make it conditional that this property is insurable before the transaction is complete?
Yes, we have seen that. And the most common when that's done is re-roofs on a home. You know, you can send an inspector out there and the roof may be over 15 years old with some dilapidated shingles. And we know going into that, there's no carrier out there that's going to insure that's a good quality company. So we've seen time and time again, addendums, different things that go into place that, you know, we will purchase this house with the contingency that the roof is replaced to guarantee that the home is insurable, et cetera. So yeah, we have seen that.
All right, we had a couple of questions come in here. Poor Emma, she said, she guess she's not going to buy a log or build a log home then. So, but that's not the takeaway I heard from your answer though. I heard that it's possible. You just have to like actually include that in the cost when you're thinking about buying it, right? Right.
Well, Emma, that's why we're proactive. You know, you call your agent right now, you give him that address, you tell him the specs of what you want to do, and he runs that rate. The house doesn't have to be there in a tangible aspect. We can put those numbers together based off of your specs, and then you can make an educated decision if you want to build a log home or not.
Well, there you go. There you go. Then you can start by calling Goosehead there.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we do need to run your contact info by the end of the show. So remind me of that if we don't, so people can reach out to you if they have further
Sure.
questions or need your assistance. A couple of questions here, and I know these are kind of granular, but I'm really glad people are asking these. Anthony asks, and this is sort of another segue award, so way to go, Anthony, on this. He said, "Do you cover solar panels?" And the question that I have is, do you ever have items that clients confuse with a home warranty,
Sure.
claim versus your typical insurance claim? So maybe I'll throw those together for you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and the answer is yes. Yes, we can cover solar panels. The underlying aspect of that is in every single policy executed, there's underlying limits for specific variables. For example, firearms, electronics, jewelry. There's standard dollar limits that they're insured up to a threshold of, and normally that dollar amount is $5,000 or $10,000. If you want additional, more thorough coverage on something that falls within those thresholds, which solar panels would, then you would endorse those policies or you would schedule those items onto the policy individual, which means you would say, I have a whatever brand solar panel that is worth a dollar amount of $12,000, and you schedule that onto the policy. And a good rule of thumb is anything that you schedule onto the policy, whether it be jewelry, etc., every $1,000, it's about $10 in premium.
Gotcha.
Is about the rule of thumb on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
absolutely.
Go ahead. Did
No,
you have a
go
follow-up?
ahead, Jeff.
Well,
Nope.
again, Emma asked, why is a credit score needed, I guess, for insurance? I'm asking that in ignorance because I'm not a realtor. Is that something that's a regular thing?
Yes. Well, yes and no. So we call it a financial score. The reason for that being is it is not something that reflects on your credit. If that was the case, then we would have a real tough time working with LOs, mortgage brokers, and realtors because, as we know, we're trying to keep that credit as untouched as possible throughout this closing process so that credit rating doesn't fluctuate and then all of a sudden we have a different story. So it's not a credit report. It does not show on the credit, but it's a financial score. They basically go in, they do a soft hit, they test for bankruptcies, they test for foreclosures, liens, and you get a letter rating, A through F, essentially. And what these guys use that for is really, they look at it as a responsibility rating. If this person is making their payments on time all the time, they've never had any blemishes, well, they look at that person as probably somebody who's going to take care of that home and have better maintenance on that home and do all the proactive aspects so that there's not a potential fire loss because of debris in the piling up in the chimney or whatever it is.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, they look at it as more of a responsibility aspect,
Interesting.
and they rate accordingly.
Yeah, well, that was new information for me. I didn't know that your insurance rate. I mean, I knew for car insurance that makes sense, but I didn't know homeowners insurance has a similar thing that your
Sure.
sort of history of responsibility then
Right.
affects your rate.
Right.
What about in the case where you're transitioning into a new home, or maybe you moved there and there was a claim, 6 months ago from a flood, the refrigerator, water thing leaked all over and destroyed the wood floor.
Right.
I move in, think everything's okay, but then discover, there's mold in the wall or there's stuff that's existing, and I didn't hire the insurance company to take care of that. How does that situation work with insurance?
Well, it's a tough situation, to be honest with you. Anytime you're going back,
Right.
it's difficult. But if you can prove the damage was caused on a previous policy holder and previous policy term, the rule of thumb is that insurance, whatever policy was in place at the time of loss, is the policy that should cover. So, now don't get me wrong. If you pull up your tile floor tomorrow and you find mold from the house you purchased last week, don't think you're going to be able to just call that previous seller and
Right.
insurance carrier and say, hey, we need you to file. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some legal steps that have to take place, but the rule of thumb is your carrier that insured the home at the time of loss should be the one that would kick in and take place. And when you execute a homeowner policy, one of the underlying questions in the application is, to your knowledge, is there any pre-existing damage?
Right.
Insurance companies are not going to cover pre-existing damage. So that new policy that you have in place, you're going to not have the availability to take care of that unless you can prove otherwise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Do you ever have situations too? And I know this is a little bit specific, but I can especially imagine here in Texas or these hurricane states where we're 5 days away from closing, and all of a sudden hail hits, and now we need to close. But I don't want to wait for that roof to be put on. But again, it's the insurance company that the seller has that needs to take care of that. Do you ever see stuff happening in the middle of a transaction like that? And is there any advice you'd give to our agents?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have seen that. And, until the house changes hands in title and name, that previous carrier is going to be responsible for that. Now, if something like that happens, that's a prime example of maybe a contingency of closing. We get the hail damage 10 days before, the client makes the claim. The buyer puts a stipulation in there that we are going to purchase this with the replacement of this roof happening by X amount of days. That's a perfect scenario of that. On the other side, when a hurricane hits within 50 miles of the coast of any state, your carrier's shut down. So we've seen in another breath, we have a heavy closing month. There's people trying to go to the closing table, and we had a quote, we had everything ready for the client, but then this hurricane gets within the box, within the window, and all of a sudden we can't execute a policy until that's came through and gone. So just something to be aware of, especially hurricanes. If you have something out there that you think may hit your state within 7 days of when you have a closing, you need to be communicating with your mortgage broker, your buyer, and your seller to see, hey, can we either move this up and get it executed beforehand, or you need to start giving an expectation that maybe we're going to close after this hurricane comes through.
Right. Well, thank you. And kind of switching gears here, what are the most common complaints that clients, my clients as an agent, have with insurance companies that could be avoided? So what would those be come to mind?
Communication, and communication. It's again, this goes back to having the right agent. When our guys, Michael Atchley, you can't see him in screen here, but Mike is phenomenal about it. One of my guys, John Rowan. When we get a call from a client, we go through their policy, unless they absolutely tell us, hey, I don't care, just get it executed. We are going to go line by line, and we are going to explain to them exactly what each coverage is, why they have it, why all of those aspects. Right. Agents don't take the time to do that. So clients, we hear about it all the time. We don't experience it personally, but it's, what do I even have on this policy, and am I covered? 9 times out of 10, our clients are calling us saying, hey, I had this loss. I know I'm covered because you told me about it when we closed. So it's really just communication and accessibility are the biggest complaints.
Do you ever find that clients are confused between market value and replacement cost? Does that ever come up?
Absolutely. And, that's depending on where our real estate market is, it can be really easy or it can be really difficult. So market value is the value of your home, right? What it's worth to buy. But you have to understand that your value is contingent on your home and your property that you're buying it on. Insurance, what we're insuring is we're insuring your structures essentially. So, replacement cost value on a structure is not always the same as the market value of your home. Now, as insurance agents, we can get creative as long as we're staying within the ethical boundaries of putting the right information into replacement cost estimations. But a prime example, let's say the market is up, right? And we have a 1,500 square foot home that on a standard rebuild, maybe it's $175,000 to rebuild, but it's on this beautiful 2-acre lot. And that home's going for $375,000. Well,
Right.
at the end of the day, your mortgage company is going to require you to be insured for whatever you have out there as a loan.
Gotcha.
So we have to be able to critique that policy to be able to, and carriers have percentages. They'll allow us to over-insure to compensate for that. But, having a good, knowledgeable insurance agent that knows how to get through that is just paramount.
Well, then with that comment, then at what stage should I, as an agent, introduce somebody? And I mean, I can't force them, just like I can't with a home inspector. I can't force them to choose an insurance company. But suppose I am making this recommendation.
Yeah.
What stage of the game? And we've talked to loan officers, and they seem like the very, very first people you want to get people connected with, so you get that process started. So where do you guys come into that sort of timeline of communication?
Sure. I think when you're ready to make an offer, before you submit the paperwork, call us. Let's run that clue report. Let's run that flood zone determination, and let's educate the client on what they have as an expectation for costs going into that home. That is ideal. And the other thing that gets us proactive on is if you guys call us and you do that, then we're going to reach out to that mortgage broker within the next 30 minutes, and we're going to say, hey, here's what it looks like it's going to cost. How is our DTI, debt to income ratio? How does that look? Because in a closing package, there's only a few items that you can fluctuate as far as getting your DTI up and down, and insurance is one of them. So, if that client is tight on their DTI, that's the time to know. So that mortgage broker can say, hey, you know what, man, I'm really tight. I need this to be about $100 less. And when we hear that, we go to the client and we say, hey, here's where we need to be. Here's what we can take and groom on this policy to be able to be within that. But you need to be understanding of what we're doing to make that happen. And, just again, education and communication, but being on the front end before you're going to submit the offer, that is the time.
Gotcha. And that kind of goes back to, if they're buying a log home or if they're buying a certain type of home, that magic payment number that they're hoping to hit that seems so hittable in the beginning might not be so hittable when insurance comes into the picture. So the sooner the better is what it sounds like. I mean, not necessarily if I'm going to see 40 homes, ask about every 40 homes, but if I'm honing in on one, like we're ready to make an offer, or we're thinking about making an offer, call you guys up.
Yeah, it would be counterproductive to send us a list of every home you're going to go show that week, and that'd be we're here for you and we'll work our tail off, and if that's what you need, we'll do it. But we'd prefer when you're ready to pull the trigger on one specifically, that's when we'd love to be involved.
Now, Goosehead Insurance is a nationwide company, so agents who are watching should be able to find a Goosehead agency in most states.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
But if they were to go out and just shop for an agent, what would be some recommendations? Look for people that are like this and avoid companies or agents that are like this. What would you say to that?
Well, I think number one, you want to exclude your captives. We all have a friend out there that's an agent somewhere, but the best value for your client is you have to go to a broker. You just have to, because if you're not guaranteeing that they're going to get the pick of everything. Number two, with your broker, you need to make sure that your broker has a large portfolio of carriers. And to me, I'm looking for a nationwide broker as opposed to a mom and pop style store. The reason for that is when we go out and we get a relationship and an appointment with a carrier, we commit to them that we're going to write X amount of policies per month per carrier that we have. If you have just a standalone brokerage shop, they are held accountable to have to execute a certain amount of policies with each company. So If your client comes to them for a quote at the end of the month and they're too short with travelers, they're going to try and put them with travelers. With
Regardless of
us
whether
having
that's the best thing or not.
Right, because they want to keep their appointment. With a nationwide carrier, we have agents all across the country. We hit those requirements month in, month out. So we have no loyalty to the carriers whatsoever. Our loyalty is to the client and getting them the absolute best fit. So that's just uber important. And you want to ask your agent about, what endorsements do you put on the policies? Remember that verbiage, replacement cost. You need to remember little endorsements like water backup, slab settlement coverage. These little add-ons that aren't part of your just bulk policy that are the biggest percentage of claims that aren't covered in the event of loss because the agent wasn't taking the time to put these quality endorsements on. And if you need help with, I don't expect you to understand the terminology that I went to school for and I've been doing for 14 years. I'll help you interview an agent if you're out of state. I will put together some of the things you need to ask, and I'll do the research on your specific state, and I'll find out the endorsements that you need. We're here to help you, and you have to align with somebody that's the same type of quality as you yourself are, or you're now doing your client a disservice. So we're here to help you with that in any way possible.
Very good. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, somebody that communicates. If they're not willing to give you their cell phone number, if they're not willing to be accessible to you over the weekend and after hours, that's not the agent you want. Agents are everywhere, guys, but they're not all created equal, and you need somebody that's hungry to earn your business and earn your client's business.
Very good. Last question here, and then, feel free to throw anything you want in the end there, and we do have your contact info ready, so we'll make sure we splash that up on the screen. But from working with, and I like asking a lot of sort of different components of the real estate industry from working with a lot of agents, who do you find to be, what kind of agents do you see having the most long-term success? What is the profile of a successful agent in your opinion?
Absolutely. And, you see some of these agents now that they're just kind of turnkey and they're on cruise control. But what they did, what I'm confident what they did to begin with is what I see 90% of the really successful agents out there. And that's get out and hustle. It doesn't matter what era we're in, what type of technology we're in. There is nothing that takes the place of being in every room at every time on every day. Chamber of Commerce, your local realtor organizations, your Lions Club, get out and pound the pavement. The only way that these guys really generated their business was having their name be on the tip of tongues of everybody in their community. So when it was that one time that, hey, let's look for a house, they remember the person that they want to deal with. That's huge. And, really just this is in general in life and in sales, be a person of your word. These people, the people that are ultra successful, they say they're going to do something. They always do it. They follow through. They're accessible. Those are the type of people that are successful. And lastly, it's the people that have a quality team around them. The last thing you want to do is be known for losing transactions because of a variable you could have controlled.
Right.
Have the homeowner inspector that's your go-to. Have your termite inspector that's your go-to. Have your LO, your mortgage broker that's your go-to. And of course, your insurance agent. But if you surround yourself with people that are going to make you look better and help build your brand, and you build this reputation of being the one-stop shop, the liaison for everything a client needs before, during, and after a closing, then you are going to be that successful 1%. I can't tell you how many clients call me still to ask me who they should use to mow their lawn or who they need to get internet service through. We want to be that one-stop shop for these guys, and it's all about building your closing team. And I think those are really the bullet points that make a successful agent.
Well, great. Can I sneak one more question in from one of our viewers? Is that all right?
Of course.
All right. Linda Wurs, and Linda, you're a great question asker, by the way. We've had a few good questions from you along the way here in these shows. She says, "Do you suggest getting an insurance agent that's located within driving distance so your client can sit down with them, if that's preferred?" We live in a virtual world, so what do you say?
We do live in a virtual world, and each person has their own different client demographic. But I'll be honest with you, gang. We're executing policies every day and have for the last 14 years. This year, I've maybe had one client walk into my office. I don't think it's a necessary aspect as long as your agent is going to be thorough with their over the phone conversations and their email and their text and their response. I don't think you need that one-on-one, but you also need to have an agent that's willing to jump in the vehicle and drive 45 minutes or an hour to go meet that one client that needs that type of consultation. But I don't think you need it, but have somebody that's willing to do it, definitely.
Very good. Any last word before we let you go?
I just I appreciate this time, Geoff, and I appreciate you, Fathom, as a company and really as a family. I have some extremely good friends within your company. I would just encourage you guys, take advantage of what I talked about in the very beginning. If you have some clients that are on the fence, if you're trying to get in with a property management company, if you need a vehicle of entertainment, let us help you with that. We did last year over 100 hunting, fishing, and camping trips for our referral partners. We love that outdoor type of stuff, and we're not stuck in that box.
Sure.
We're all about going and entertaining out in the city and doing those sort of things. We're all about partnering and investing into marketing strategies that you have. We're ready to be here and invest into you guys in any way, shape, or form to make you grow as a company and you grow as an individual. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Well, with that sort of call to action, here's Anthony just said, thanks for a great show. Here's Jeff's contact info here. We're going to throw it up on the screen there. So there it is. Take a screenshot of it or rewind the video. Rewind. Did we say that anymore? I guess we say it. I'm thinking back to VCR days. So there it is. There it is. If you want it, and give Geoff a call. The time I've spent with them, they're very easy to work with. So thank you for coming on the show, and we appreciate all the great information that you've given to the agents watching and who will watch here as time goes on. So we'll wrap it up with that. And I always want to remind you who are watching, if you are thinking of making that switch, as Geoff said in the beginning, Fathom is a company that works for you rather than you working for them. They provide all sorts of on top of the 100% commission structure that we have, where you cap at $5,400 with $450 per transaction, $99 per transaction after your first 12 transactions. There's all kinds of tools, from a CRM to a transaction management system to an endorsement program that where you can gain client reviews. There's affordable health insurance. I've got a list here. Multi-tiered support. You're going to get a lot of that here at Fathom. So there it is. There's our pitch, and we do appreciate you watching. Next week we have Jason Jarrett, who is the senior survey technician and managing member of Byline Surveying. So we're going to be talking surveying next week. I look forward to interviewing Jason for that and seeing you again here on Fathom Live next Wednesday, 1:30 Central Time. We'll see you then.